Welcome back to Jane's Stories of Life. One of the things that has changed dramatically during the course of my life has been in the whole area of shopping, especially when it comes to shopping for food. I grew up with a milkman who delivered your dairy products. He delivered the milk, the cottage cheese, the cheese, I don't remember what else, but you would leave the empty bottles in a container outside of your house, and then he would come and gather those and refill it with that and whatever else you might want to order that week. I also, I grew up in Cleveland, right in the middle of the city. There was a produce wagon. The man would come through the streets with fresh produce, and as a matter of fact, he had a horse and wagon that he would come through with produce. So you'd go out to the produce guy and buy your lettuce and your tomatoes and every things that you wanted. There was also a bakery truck. Oh my goodness, that's the one you were excited to see, because on that truck there were drawers, steel drawers or metal drawers that held different kinds of breads and rolls, donuts and cookies and all kinds of things. So you couldn't wait and hope that maybe you would be able to get one of the treats from one of the drawers. Some of the shopping actually came right to your house. Recently, John asked me something about, when I was talking the YouTube I did about moving, it dawned on him, my mom never drove, so we never had a car. And he said, Mom, how did you move if you didn't have a car? It was interesting that growing up in the city, many people didn't have cars. You depended on public transportation. You depended on taxis sometimes. Somehow we managed, to live years without cars. So, lots of things have changed. We had neighborhood stores. There was the corner grocery store, where you could pick up some things. In the neighborhood that we lived in, there were a number of Jewish families, and so there were chicken stores. Inside the store were crates or cages or whatever you want to call them of live chickens, and you could pick out your chicken. They would take it in the back and kill it and dress it and wrap it up, and you would have nice fresh chicken if that's what you wanted for dinner. There was also a fish market. There was a butcher shop. There were bakeries on that same main street near where we lived, and so a lot of things were available like that. There were regular stores, grocery stores, and I still call where I go shopping a grocery store. Even now they are supermarkets and super centers and other things like that. But there was A&P, and I think we had Kroger's, but there were stores that carried more selection, and certainly you could shop there. One of the other interesting things I shared with John was, even after I finished college, so that was when I was in my 20s, supermarkets, grocery stores closed at 6 o'clock every evening. This union organization of grocery clerks, I guess, was very strong, and for a long time they fought against working long hours. And so if you were a person who worked, you had to figure out either Saturday everybody was in the store, or you had to figure out how to rush to the store between the time you got off work and 6 o'clock when the store was closing. So life was very different for just basic things like that. Later on, when things seemed to expand, we had more of the larger stores. We eventually had the companies like Sam's and Costco for bulk shopping, BJ's. Some of those things became more popular. The more that people moved around, the more that people were no longer concentrated as much in urban areas. It was interesting, one summer my children and I went to Cleveland. My mom had had surgery and needed transportation back and forth to therapy. So the children and I spent the summer in Cleveland. When we went grocery shopping, my mom lived in an apartment building. I shopped the way I used to shop, in Schenectady. And then realized when I came back and parked in the parking garage, that meant hauling all those grocery bags from the parking garage to the apartment, to the elevator, on the elevator, down the long corridor to get to my mom's apartment. I think I did that once. After that, I would pick up smaller quantities, believe me. But, the differences in just how we shopped were pretty amazing. Then, when we lived in Delaware, that was also interesting because Dover, the area around Dover, has a fairly sizable Amish and Mennonite population. So at Walmart and at ShopRite and some of the other supermarkets, not only was there the parking lot, but then there was also a place for the Amish shoppers to tie up their horses because, of course, they use horse and buggies. They do not drive motor vehicles. One of the favorite place stores that I used to love and I miss greatly was Byler's Market, which was more of a Mennonite market with bulk foods and lots of fresh things from the farm and so forth. They had a much larger area for horses and buggies for parking. Sometimes you had people who were farmers who would bring things to your door. There was a gentleman who raised collard greens, and I would just call him and I'd say, hey, could you bring me, 3 or 4 bunches of greens this week? And I would look out on my porch and there would be the greens, So there were lots of different things since moving, and well, even before we moved here, I had started using some of the pickup services from supermarkets where you could order ahead and pick up your groceries. That was kind of one of the things available because of technology of the internet. You could, order things. Now I order, sometimes I do pickup. I also do grocery delivery on bulky, heavy things that I don't want to have to deal with. I need gallons of distilled water for my CPAP machine. So I may order 4 of those at a time. And I may order, the large cans of crushed tomatoes and things like that. Why should I have to lug those if I can have them delivered? And when they deliver, they come right through the garage and put the bags right on my kitchen floor. And then that's, saves me time and effort. Some mornings, if I don't feel like getting up and I know I need some things, I may lie in bed and, pull up somebody's order form on my phone and order groceries and then either pick them up or have them delivered that day or the next day or whenever. So, shopping has changed dramatically. Even the things now that we take for granted, we take for granted that groceries are scanned. The barcodes change the way that you shop. The use of technology, you scan your card or you use your ATM. How many times were you stuck behind somebody writing a check in a grocery store? That hasn't been that long ago. So I just had all these thoughts about that. It's funny, I live very close to Disney World. And John went to Publix, the Publix where I shop one day, and he came back, he said, Mom, I didn't know if I was in a Disney store or in the grocery store or in Publix, because when the doors open at that particular Publix, the front display, when it opens, you see the Disney t-shirts, the magnets, the postcards, the hats, all the Disney themed things for tourists. When you turn to your right, the shelves that are on that wall contain the baskets with the small size ketchup, mayonnaise, cereal, things that the tourists will want, because that particular Publix is very close to several of the resort areas or the timeshares. So you know people are coming. They're not shopping for more than a week at a time, but it is kind of funny that, you know, the stores now, you can buy just about anything at the supermarket, at the super center, whatever you want to call it. Gift cards, sunglasses. As a matter of fact, these glasses came from Publix because my other glasses are being changed and made and so forth. But just, you know, interesting how it seems like, you know, I must have lived in the olden days, back in the dinosaur days, because things have changed so much. And I don't really think about it, but when I did, I thought, wow, what a difference 80 years makes. So, cherish your memories. I know I have lots of stories about shopping and things like that, but this one occurred to me just the other day when I said something about the grocery store, and I thought, nobody calls it a grocery store anymore. I'm aging myself. So anyway, cherish your memories and pass them on.